Too many people are under the impression that Bitcoin can't be money because if it does become money, then nobody's going to want to spend. They think that for whatever reason, we're going to stop eating, we're going to stop drinking, we're going to stop going on vacations, we're going to stop spending time with our friends and family. And I received a comment along this line, so I want to address the comment. Let's get started. Here's the comment we can see here. Bitcoin can never be the world currency used in commerce. There would be no motivation to spend it since it grows in value anyway. No need to invest in building real world things. So let's address this first part. There are two reasons why Bitcoin's price is going up so much. The first one is that the US dollar is a terrible store of value. When you price something like Bitcoin with an inelastic supply, in terms of US dollars, the value is going to go up forever because more and more dollars will chase Bitcoin forever. More and more dollars can be created, added to the economy, and all of those dollars are going to chase Bitcoin. The second reason why right now the value is going up so much is because Bitcoin is being adopted by the masses. So the masses are figuring out what Bitcoin is and they're accumulating it. As they accumulate it, as they take it away from people who maybe don't understand what it is, people who bought early, let's say somebody bought for 10 cents and they want to get rid of some to spend on their lifestyle, new entrants into the market are buying Bitcoin from the people who are willing to sell it. And over time, Bitcoin runs out at every single price. So let's think of it this way. Right now, Bitcoin is around $98,000 because there's no Bitcoin available to be sold at $90,000. There's no Bitcoin available to be sold at $80,000 or $70,000 or $60,000. The price is an equilibrium between buyers and sellers. So what happens is, as sellers run out of Bitcoin at every price, so let's say somebody wants to sell Bitcoin at $50,000, they sell everything. They can't really go back to the market and create more Bitcoin out of nowhere and then sell those into the market because they don't have any. They're done. Bitcoin is finite. Once you sell your Bitcoin, you have to buy it back from someone else. You have to pay whatever they're willing to sell it for. So when the people who are willing to sell at $50,000 run out, we have to find more buyers who are willing to offer more than $50,000 to bring more sellers to the market. So what that does is it bumps the price up. As the price bumps up, we see that there are fewer and fewer Bitcoin available at the lower prices. As the Bitcoin at every price level runs out, the price goes up. Let's think of it this way. If you had the choice of owning pieces of paper that can be created out of thin air versus something like Bitcoin, something that can't be created out of thin air, it has no central party, it can't be debased, it can't be stolen from. If you had the choice between those two, which one would you hold? You'd very likely want to give away the pieces of paper and hold the asset that can't be created out of thin air. Right now, most people don't understand what Bitcoin is. Most people have no idea what it is. So they're willing to give away their Bitcoin for pieces of paper. They're trading in and out. They just think that it's another asset. That's what most people think. 99% of the world has no desire to buy Bitcoin right now. Eventually, they will, because the world is going to go to a Bitcoin standard. Bitcoin is designed to be the world reserve currency. This is not a choice. Bitcoin being used in commerce is not a choice. It's about whether or not merchants want Bitcoin. Once merchants figure out what Bitcoin is, they're going to want it. And what happens when merchants start demanding Bitcoin for their goods and services? Bitcoin becomes even more valuable because the people who want to buy those goods and services have to have Bitcoin to pay for those goods and services. So right now, there absolutely is no motivation to spend Bitcoin because the value of Bitcoin is going to keep rising until more and more of the world has exposure to it, until most of the world actually owns some and can participate in a Bitcoin economy. Until most of the world can actually participate in a Bitcoin economy, there's no way for you to spend it. But eventually, let's say there's somebody who's a Bitcoiner and they create some kind of product or service. They're willing to sell it for Bitcoin. So you have a reason to spend your Bitcoin. Right now, people have to sell their Bitcoin, get back US dollars, and then pay their merchants in US dollars. at some point in the future when merchants want Bitcoin, and I'm telling you, it's already happening. More and more merchants are willing to accept Bitcoin. Bitcoin is part of Wall Street now. More and more merchants will accept Bitcoin in the coming years because it's the best form of money ever. Why wouldn't they accept Bitcoin? Over time, as more people are willing to accept Bitcoin, Bitcoin's value will rise. At this point, you'll be willing to pay for things in Bitcoin. But at some point in the future, nobody will want pieces of paper. Let's say somebody in a oil producing country. They produce oil and they say that we don't want to sell our oil for paper because we put the time, energy, and effort to create this oil. This paper can be printed out of nothing. We can create $100 bills. The US can create $100 bills out of nothing. Why would these oil producers want US dollars if they have a choice between asking for Bitcoin versus asking for US dollars? We can see here the next point. People who have no Bitcoin will use something else, something more liquid, and Bitcoin will become like gold, hoarded in vaults, doing nothing, creating nothing, helping nobody. The difference between Bitcoin and gold is that you can actually use it for commerce. You can transfer your Bitcoin to anybody in the world. Anybody in the world who accepts Bitcoin can get paid in Bitcoin. And with gold, it's completely different. With gold, you actually have to have a third party in the middle who has to hold your gold, and then they can offer you certificates. That's how things worked in the past. Maybe you can create a gold-backed cryptocurrency. I don't know how that would work because you have to have a central party. The difference between Bitcoin and gold is that you can take full self-custody of your Bitcoin. If you want to pay for something in Bitcoin, you can give the other person full self-custody of that Bitcoin. You can get final settlement immediately with Bitcoin. With gold, it could take days. It could take months. You may never get final settlement with gold. So there's a massive difference there. With gold, you can't ask somebody to pay for a house with gold bars. It's just not reasonable. But you can get somebody to pay for a house in Bitcoin. You can get them to transfer Bitcoin from their wallet to yours. And then the last part here, however, for now, it's an anti-inflation asset and is great for that, but not as currency, except as a last resort. So in this case, if you think about Bitcoin as money right now, nobody accepts it. Nobody asks for Bitcoin. Most of the world doesn't know about how Bitcoin works. 99% of the world has no idea what's even happening. They have no clue. So you can't expect those 99% of people to want Bitcoin for goods and services, to create goods and services and ask for Bitcoin when they don't even know what it is. I think right now we're so early in the life cycle of Bitcoin as a form of money, as an asset, and people are looking at it from the wrong perspective. Right now, Bitcoin is not used as money because we want to get rid of our dollars. Most Americans don't even want to hold dollars. They get rid of their dollars. They go into debt. They go negative on dollars because they know that dollars are going to lose value over time. They give away their dollars. So right now, if you have the choice to pay somebody with dollars, why wouldn't you? You want to get rid of the inferior currency. But at some point, like I said, merchants won't want dollars. It's very hard for people to wrap their heads around this. They've always lived in a time where merchants have always accepted dollars. We've always lived in a time with fake money, with money that can be created out of nothing. But over time, the world is going to transition. It's going to change. Things are going to develop. In the next 10, 20, 30 years, Bitcoin is only going to get better. So maybe right now you can't spend your Bitcoin at Starbucks. Eventually, you'll be able to. Eventually, you'll be able to pay for your coffee with Bitcoin using, let's say, the Lightning Network. Even Visa and MasterCard are working towards offering Bitcoin-related services. So how do you know that in the next 10 years, 20 years, how do you know that all these companies aren't going to announce their own services where, let's say, Starbucks starts offering gift cards that you can put Bitcoin on and you can give them to other people? You can only spend them at Starbucks. What if that's something that they do? How do you know that Walmart won't start accepting Bitcoin at some point? Amazon, all these massive retailers, eventually they're going to want to accumulate Bitcoin. Apple, Microsoft, all of these companies, eventually they're going to want to accumulate Bitcoin and they're going to ask you to pay for their goods and services with Bitcoin. We're going to see merchants that give you a discount. If you pay them in Bitcoin versus if you pay them in dollars, you might get a 10% discount with Bitcoin, a 5% discount, 3% Bitcoin discount with Bitcoin. Because if you pay with dollars, they have to pay transaction fees. They have to pay processing fees. To merchants, accepting Bitcoin would be the best decision that they can make. I actually wish that I could accept Bitcoin for everything that I offer, but most of the people who use my services aren't very proficient with Bitcoin. They're trying to learn about Bitcoin. I have a community where I charge $20 a month, $20 a month. I wish I could charge Bitcoin. I wish I could charge a flat Bitcoin amount. If I could charge a flat Bitcoin amount, that would make it so that I get Satoshis instead of dollars. I don't have to convert those dollars into Bitcoin at some point, and I can just keep those Satoshis as is. I also offer one-on-one coaching sessions where people pay me with a credit card, they pay me with a debit card, however they want to. Most people who are booking those sessions don't have Bitcoin. They're paying with credit card because that's the way that things work right now. Right now, the world isn't designed to work with Bitcoin. The world isn't designed to help you transact with Bitcoin. Eventually, let's say 10, 20, 30 years from now, do you think that if most of the world owns Bitcoin and their Bitcoin has appreciated in value so much, they're not going to want to spend Bitcoin? At some point, there will be people who produce commodities who don't want dollars, because dollars can be created out of nothing. They can be borrowed into existence. You can't do that with Bitcoin. So all these people who are thinking that, oh, Bitcoin is not going to work, it can't be the world currency, there's going to be no motivation to spend it. Think of it logically. Why would merchants want dollars? Dollars can be created out of nothing. They're creating products that take time, effort, and energy to create. If they had the choice, they would want Bitcoin. Then think of the second part of it. If you need to pay for a vacation, you need to pay for groceries, you need to pay for your gas, you need to buy a car, and your merchant only accepts Bitcoin, are you just going to hold on to that Bitcoin and leave it in your wallet and go homeless? Are you going to start walking everywhere? Are you going to start walking to work? Are you just going to not eat? Think of it logically. Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin doesn't have any utility in and of itself. You use Bitcoin to buy utility. That's the point of money. Dollars have no utility. Of course, you can use them as toilet paper, you can use them to start fires, but other than that, I mean, dollars have no value. The value of a dollar that we have assigned to that dollar bill is much, much higher than the value of toilet paper. It's much, much higher. Let's say this $100 bill is much, much higher than a lighter. I could buy 100 lighters with this and I can start fires. Why would I light this up? But if the value of this goes to zero, then I can use it as a piece of paper. Bitcoin in and of itself has no utility. You use Bitcoin to buy utility. Over time, the amount of utility that you can buy with Bitcoin increases. That's what leads to an increase in purchasing power. Eventually, you'll be able to pay for your coffee with Bitcoin. We'll use Lightning, we'll use Visa, we'll use MasterCard, whatever it is. Over time, it'll just become easier and easier to spend your Bitcoin because merchants will want Bitcoin. All of these payment processors will want a share of your Bitcoin. They'll want to charge you fees in Bitcoin. You don't think that they want to build a business to accumulate more Bitcoin as well? This is the greatest opportunity for them. This is the best way to do things for them. Merchants don't have to pay fees to accept Bitcoin. You pay the fees on your end. They don't have to pay the fees. All they do is they accept the payment. That's it. Over time, it's going to get easier and easier for merchants to accept Bitcoin. So over time, we're going to see more and more merchants who are accepting Bitcoin. We're going to see more and more merchants who only accept Bitcoin. If your favorite merchant only accepts Bitcoin, what are you going to do? Force them to take dollars? You can't. If they want Bitcoin and they're not willing to give you whatever they have for dollars, there's nothing you can do about it. Right now, we're very early into Bitcoin's life cycle. We're very early into where Bitcoin is going over the long term, over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Over time, Bitcoin is just going to get better and better, and you're going to have more ways to spend it, to use it as money, to use it for what it was intended to be used, as cash, peer-to-peer cash with nobody in the middle.